Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the steel city, Matt Trader.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me today is a podcast veteran, Justin, who's been on with me a couple times already. Welcome again, Justin.
Thanks for having me again, Matt.
So I've asked you this before a couple times, but let's start off the podcast the usual way. What is your favorite place that you've ever visited, or is there a place you'd still like to visit the most, or next on your list, however you want to define it?
Yeah, probably my next on my list behind like Japan would be Ireland. I think that would be really nice to see. I know that in some ways it's similar to here, for style with the mountains and stuff like that. But both my wife and I have a lot of family that came from there, and so I think it would be neat to actually see where our families came from.
Yeah, I'm roughly a third Irish, so that's on my list too. And I had another guest on who said the exact same thing about going to Ireland.
Nice.
So my youngest sister, did a European tour with her husband, before they had kids, years ago, shortly after they were married, and going to Ireland and kissing the Blarney Stone and was part of that. So it just looked gorgeous. It's been 25 years now. That whenever I was in college, I got to go to Germany, and we flew over Ireland, and the timing was right that we took a red-eye flight. That whenever we were going over Ireland over Ireland, if I can enunciate, was right around dawn. So we had the sun coming up, hitting the green of Ireland, and oh my God, it was such a gorgeous sight.
That sounds awesome.
So we're going to get into today's topic, which is traveling to Universal Orlando with kids. And we're going to get into some things that is traveling with kids in general as well. But often, whenever we talk about Universal and Disney and all that, people think of Disney's for kids and Universal's more for the teens, adults, more of the thrill rides and everything. And there's a little bit of truth in there, but it's not, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. That Universal does have a lot for young kids to do, and which we're going to do in a whole lot more detail the rest of this episode. And now Disney does have some more thrilling attractions in recent years. That they just have the Tron Light Cycle Run that they added, the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which is an amazing roller coaster. That's a lot of fun. Slinky Dog Dash, which is my little girl's favorite. And then some of the old favorites that have been there for years, like the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, Rocket Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, and Summit Plummet at Blizzard Beach, which I've never done that. Whenever I was there when we were younger, that I didn't have enough courage to try it. I was in my teens. I don't know, I was 15 years old, whatever. And now when we go, it's usually in December, and often Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon are closed for refurbishment, or it's just not warm enough. So I haven't had a chance to go back, but it's on my list.
Definitely. Yeah, same here. I haven't had a chance to do that one yet. And I think that's something that's really nice with the way both parks, both Disney and Universal, are being now, is they are working on being more inclusive in both directions, so it's attractive for the whole family. That you're not having to go, well, the young kids in the family are going to be cool with Disney, but the older ones are going to be bored, or vice versa with that. And there's so much that's being added either with extra gates or expansions that make it more family friendly across the board.
Yeah, and next year Universal is gonna be uh completing Epic Universe, but something that's happening just today is that in Universal they are opening DreamWorks Land, which now with Universal they have some of the, a lot of the stuff for the kids, which we'll go into in detail. They do have a lot of the more bigger, thrilling, intense rides, though. That it's something that is above and beyond what you get at Disney, like the Velocicoaster, the Incredible Hulk coaster, the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. Try saying that 3 times fast. The Kokiri Body Plunge, which is similar to Summit Plummet, and all that. So they do have some roller coasters that do go above and beyond and give bigger thrills than what you would get at Disney. So if that is what you were looking for, this is definitely a place you want to head. Although, one thing very important to start off with is when you are traveling with kids, know their heights and know the height restrictions. So it's really important to know what they can go on, what they can't go on, just so that you avoid any unrealistic expectations of, you have a very adventurous 5-year-old. I want to go on the Velocicoaster. It's so cool. And you're like, okay, yeah. And then you get there, it's like, oh, you're about 5 inches too short. I'm sorry. So make sure you know and plan your day around what should we expect to go on, what should our game plan be, what should we go on first, where should we spend most of our time, what do we have to not worry about, or what really nice thing that they have is the rider swap, which is you can go up to them, let them know that you want to do a rider swap, say, okay, you'll get a, how do they do that at Universal? Is
So
there,
Universal's actually much nicer than Disney's in some ways. Um, where Disney basically you let them know, and then you have to have part of the group go through the line, and then you sort of go through the fast pass line for the second. What happens is you wait together and you go through the line, but once you get near the end of the ride, at least for most of their rides, from what I remember, they actually have a room that you can go into. It's air conditioned. They have like TVs for the kids to watch stuff, things like that. That's like a little lounge that you can hang out in while the first group goes through the ride. And then once they're done, they pop back to that room, swap out, and then the other group goes immediately, and you don't have that secondary waiting in line, and you are in a more comfortable area that's designed for waiting. So I think that that's something that I would like to see Disney add even more so, since their focus does traditionally go towards family with younger kids, and there being some more height requirements scenarios. I think it would be nice for they just to invest a little bit extra square footage into having that area for the families to wait.
and Disney definitely does have the space to do that. Although
Right.
modifying existing attractions could be difficult, but for the new
Yeah.
ones, but having that nice little break of it's a little lounge with TVs and things that the kids are familiar with. So it's kind of a, okay, we're going in this park and it's new, exciting thing. I'm overly stimulated, whatever. Oh, here's something familiar. I get to sit down and relax in air conditioning for a little bit and
Yeah.
then go back to it. So it's a little bit of a break. Now, the one thing that is really nice about Universal, and this started back with Disney, and this is part of the reason why Disneyland was built, is that there are no kiddie rides. That Justin and I have gone to other local amusement parks that they have their kiddie lands or the kiddie rides that the little kid gets on this little thing, goes around in a circle, and the parent just stands there and watches. That there's no ride like that. That everything that the kid's going to do, a parent can go on with them. And for the most part, it's going to be everyone in the family can go on. There's
Mhm.
one ride that is a little bit restricted, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. So we're going to start with Universal Studios Florida and walk through some of the things that everyone can do, and then a few things that have some of the lower height limits. And we're going up to 42 inches on this. And there's some that are 42 and 48, whatever else. So as the kid gets older, there will still be some limitations above and beyond this. But my little 4-year-old is 42 inches. Well, she's a little bit taller than that now. Last time we went to Disney, she was exactly 42 inches and could go on pretty much everything. There were only a few things that she couldn't ride, which she did some of the bigger roller coasters, which she's great on them. She loved Slinky Dog Dash. That's her favorite. So we're going to use that kind of as the height limit, and we'll give the smaller ones too, just so you can judge how tall your kid is and what they can ride and other things along those lines. So one of the newer additions to Universal Studios Florida, at least before DreamWorks Land, was Minion Land. Now they had Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, which is a 40-inch height restriction on it before, which is really neat. You get to go in and it's a little ride through that you get to become a minion. And so you get to see just the concept of becoming a minion for the kids. And even for me, I think that's just such a neat premise. And it's a lot of fun.
Something I did hear with that one, I haven't had a chance to actually double check it, is with that particular ride, there is a fixed seat area. So you can be under 40 inches and be there to like see it like a movie, but you wouldn't get to go in the ride car. So I don't know what the specific requirements are for you to be able to do that, if that's specifically for families with special needs, or if it's or if you can just ask and say, hey, this is something that this kid would like to see. The rest of the family is going to do the car, but I'll sit with them over here if that's okay, type thing. So that's one that I definitely want to spend some time double checking a little bit more detail on. I just heard that this morning.
And that does sound familiar. That I was looking up something with this about a month or so ago, and I did not notice the 40-inch restriction on that. So that could be the reason for it. That it's the 40-inch in the normal seats, but then they let you in with the stationary seat, just so you're not falling out.
Right.
The other neat thing that they have there is the Villain Con Minion Blast, which is like a shooting game that you go through with these little handheld blasters, and you can shoot the different targets. One note on this is that you cannot have a handheld infant to take through that. That anybody who goes through that must be able to walk on their own, at least most of the way. I know some little toddlers they might start walking, and then of course their legs get tired right in the middle of it. So I don't think they'll make the little kid walk the whole way out.
Right.
So, and then also and we'll get into a little bit more detail about where you can meet different characters and everything, but you can meet some of the minions in the Illumination Theater there too, which is always a big fan favorite among the younger kids and some not so younger kids too.
Right.
I've seen a lot of adults in line to get pictures with the different characters.
Absolutely.
Now the big news is DreamWorks Land, which is open today, and they have the Trolls Troller Coaster, which the play on words there, it's just too perfect to not do. Where you get to ride your Caterpillar Catterbus. There isn't a height limit that you have to be, or height restriction. You have to be at least 36 inches on that. But it's a little roller coaster. Doesn't have any big hills, but it's a nice intro coaster for a kid to get into. Although the first time riding a roller coaster, something a little bit faster, a little bit bigger. And the videos on that look amazing that I've seen.
They do.
One of the other really neat things that they have there is you can learn Kung Fu from Po from Kung Fu Panda. And it's basically Po on a screen, and it's on a video screen. It's an interactive thing where he can talk to you, he can see you, he can interact with you. And the technologies they use for that is used in some other attractions in different parks and other places. But it is, well, it's like magic for young kids that it makes it so much more believable of seeing the actual character that you know and love from TV being there right there in front of you and being able to talk to you and interact. And it's not just some video, but it's like a real life thing. And of course, most kids love little kung fu, especially if they've seen the movies. I know my other girl's in karate now, and she's practices that sometimes at home. Although the very important thing with their karate is the person who teaches it, and his title is Shihan, because he's not a sensei, he's a Shihan. He's like so many black belts in that it's I will not use my karate to show off or pick fights. That's their mantra at the beginning of every class. So
that's a good role to have.
Absolutely. Also in DreamWorks Land, you can meet Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey. And I love the Shrek movies. That the one great thing about the DreamWorks cartoons and with Trolls that we watched that last year when it came out, and the Shrek movies is it's fun. It is a full family and it's full family entertainment. That the kids like it because it's a cartoon and it's funny and stuff. But they have little one-liners and little innuendos in those movies that adults pick up on. And I think it's funnier as an adult than it is as a kid.
Yeah, and at the parks, like I think whenever I went, um, Shrek and Fiona weren't with Donkey. It was just Donkey himself. But just standing there and watching the interactions with everyone with Donkey because of him being able to come up with one-liners with people just randomly based on like what they're wearing or what they're carrying or whatever. He's really good. Whoever's playing Donkey there it does a really nice job. And
Wait,
Fiona.
it's not the real donkey? Wait. No, we gotta finish your thoughts. No, about Fiona.
It's okay. But yeah, I think Fiona, it's sort of nice, adds a little bit of an additional element to because you have her being able to be part of the conversation as well. And that she can move around and stuff. I wish that Shrek was a conversational character because of how having Donkey and everything. I think that would be really funny having him be able to be verbally part of the conversation. But hopefully that'll be an advancement that they'll make here in a little while for him.
Donkey and Shrek with a 1-2 punch of one-liners that that could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Another thing that everybody can do is Kang and Kodos twirl and hurl, which that is not a threat, that's a promise. So just don't eat too much before you get on that ride. It spins. So yeah, plan your riding and your meals separately for that one. But there is no height restriction. Also, if you would get a park to park ticket, you can ride the Hogwarts Express, which the that's just it's amazing how even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, just riding that is amazing with just the technology and how realistic it feels and everything.
Yeah, that's one on the top of our list right now because my daughter's a huge Harry Potter fan, and unfortunately, with our last two trips, we got hit with a hurricane one, and then my son came down with a cold, the most recent one, and so we haven't had a chance to actually go yet. So my daughter's chomping at the bit to get on the Hogwarts Express.
And on that note, when you travel with kids, they will always get sick because their kids are always sick anyway. So know where the local CVS's or drugstore or whatever, so you can stop by and grab the Tylenol or whatever that you can give them to help get them through the day, which we've
Yeah,
done on a few occasions.
and I don't know about it Universal, but I know there's at least one pharmacy at Disney that will actually deliver to the hotels. I don't know. I haven't talked with the Universal hotels lately to see if they have one that's nearby, but pretty much they'll bring whatever you need for you, so you don't have to worry about getting an Uber or a Lyft or anything like that if you don't have a car. So that is a nice benefit.
Yeah. Moving on with the attractions, 34-inch height restriction is the ET Adventure. Now it's a very slow ride. The height restriction is there because you're sitting on bicycles for the ride vehicle. So it's more of just the kid being able to physically stay on it and not fall off or slip out or anything, run away. But there's no fear of a kid, if the ride being too fast for them. A couple other ones that are 40-inch. They're all ride simulators. The Race 3 New York with Jimmy Fallon, the Simpsons ride, and Transformers 3D ride. Transformers might be a little bit intense because they have some
Yeah.
of the bad guys in there. So know your kid whenever you go on there. And since they are the 3D simulators, they do get a little bit rough with the rocking back and forth and everything. So just have the kid hold on. And then 42 inches is the Men in Black Alien Attack, which is another one of the shooting games as you go through. Again, nothing too crazy about that ride though. Although some things that the kids will like a little bit more potentially, I know my little girl would love this one, is the Animal Actors on Location, which is basically
Hmm.
an animal show. And my little girl loves animals. There are a bunch of dogs in the neighborhood, and every day it's, can we go and walk to see this dog here? Can I go over to this friend's house and see their dog here? Can I see this person's cat? And there's a couple that are like just neighborhood cats, and she'll want to chase after them down the street. It's like, no, he's gonna run away. Stay away from the bushes. There's poison ivy there. So, but the abilities of these animals, it's astounding. It's like I can't even get trained to do some of those tricks. So, uh, other stuff is that in DreamWorks there's the DreamWorks Imagination Celebration. Another mouthful, right? That you can see Shrek, Poe from Kung Fu Panda, then the Trolls. So again, whenever you're over there, if you need another fix of the seeing the characters, and you don't have to necessarily wait in line to meet and greet them personally, that you see them up on the stage. I know my niece, who's, well, she's now 16, she has a driver's permit and everything, but whenever she was younger, going to see the characters was a thrilling and horrifying event for her. It was the cutest thing though, that we went and saw that, got up to the characters. My sister was holding her and she was shy and looking away and everything. And then my sister put her down with her two older brothers to get pictures with some of the other characters, and she ran away. That No, it was in like an enclosed room, and she was maybe like
Right.
20 feet away, flat against the wall. So Justin, you can see this on the video that she's as far back to the wall as she can, arms against it, huge grin on her face, seeing the characters. But then one of them took a step closer to her, and it was instant terror, shaking her head, no, don't get any closer.
Oh,
Character took a step back, huge grin, that's far enough, close enough. So, especially if you have a kid who is a little bit more nervous about being that close to the characters, seeing them in a little bit of a show and a parade and things like that, it can be a little better because there is that distance. They still get to see the character, but they're not quite up close. And it can be a little bit overwhelming for some kids.
it, absolutely. Yeah, it looks like a really fun show. I actually saw a recording of it earlier today that was showing snippets from it, and it looks fun. Lot of singing and dancing with the characters and some other cast members there.
Speaking of singing and dancing, there are a bunch of street shows that they offer at Universal in University of Florida. That the Vamos, the Bailalo, which is kind of I want to say it seems like a West Side Story type dance
Mm.
type thing, uh, like the 40s 50s type thing. They have a Blues Brothers show, so you get, if you're, especially if your kids are into dance. I don't know if they'll necessarily enjoy the music from Blues Brothers so much, but seeing the whole spectacle, the Blues Brothers was a great movie, and they put on a great show down there with the dance moves and everything. So just to seeing the people dance around and get them moving is good. There are the was it the Beat Builders, the architects? Is that in
Mm,
University of Florida, or is that over in? I think it's in the
I
University of
think
Florida.
that's Universe Florida. Yeah,
So the like in Disney they have like the janitors and people drum different drum things. I could listen to like a drum line from a marching band all day long. It's that type of
absolutely.
thing. That it's cliche thing. It's music to my ears. That's just an amazing sound that I just think is amazing. So I'm a big fan of those. There's also Tales of Beetle the Bard, which is in Diagon Alley. So the Harry Potter stuff. It's a little puppet show, which is pretty neat. Over in Islands of Adventure, they have some other ones that I think are a little bit better, but this one's pretty neat. There's also a couple shows that everyone can go to, but they might not be appropriate for the younger kids, like the Born Stuntacular and the Horror Makeup Show, that they could be a little bit scary, especially the Born Stuntacular can be loud with explosions and
Hmm.
all that. So, one other tip when you're going with kids, get the little ear muffs, the ear coverings, the ear protection things. That I know my little girl is terrified of loud noises and fireworks. And I know we've been in parks where it's just about whenever the fireworks show is about to go off, and we're making the sprint to get out of there just to give us some distance so it doesn't scare her too much. Although last time she wasn't too bad since she knew we were going away from it, that it
That's
was
good.
more of a calming thing. And then, of course, as mentioned, there are the character greetings, and they are all throughout Universal Studios Florida. You can meet SpongeBob SquarePants in the Woody Woodpecker Kid Zone, Scooby Doo and his friends in Hollywood, the Transformers right outside the Transformer ride. Although, be careful with that. It's Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and Megatron.
Mm,
So, again, Megatron, kind of scary looking, but even Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, they're just the size of them. Those guys are huge.
right. They
And
are.
they're kind of intimidating looking. So, again, know your kids of how close you can get to them. And even if you're not going to go see them, be aware of when they're out. Because
Right.
I know that we were walking through Galaxy's Edge one time and one of the Wookiees came past. And knowing my little girl, it's like, oh, she loves Chewie. But this other
Right.
Wookiee, she just the look of him in the size, and again, seeing a character in real life that they're bigger than you expect when you're used to these, this little, you know, 3 foot thing maybe on your big screen TV, that now they're 7 feet tall and lumbering past you. She was not happy to see him. So even though you're not intentionally going to see them, if they are in the area, it might be a good idea to keep your distance, or let them know, hey, you stand on this side of me, we'll walk by. Don't worry, he can't see you, type of thing, to reassure them. There's the Simpsons in Springfield. Bart, Homer, Marge, Lisa, then Krusty the Clown and Sideshow Bob, and they're in different areas of the Springfield location, so you can go around for them. Hashtag the Panda. You don't get to see him up close. At least I've never seen him up close. I've always seen him like in a window up above the
Um,
resort.
if you actually go through the regular queue for the race through New York, he's actually in one of the uh like waiting areas.
Yeah,
They have the barbershop quartet in the one room, and then hashtags usually in the other bigger room. So you can actually get photos up close with him there.
that's nice. I mentioned about the Minions in Minion Land, and then you can get Gabby from Gabby's Dollhouse, who will also be in DreamWorks Land.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids were sort of excited to see that. I didn't know that they were so familiar with Gabby's Dollhouse this morning. They were watching some stuff, and really got excited when they saw it.
The funny thing is that my little girl calls my mom Gabby. They start off as
Mm,
just mispronouncing Grammy or Graham.
hmm.
It turned into Gabby. So it's been a name that's stuck now for her. Now, of course, one of the main things that you're gonna have to worry about with kids is eating. So you have to find food that they're going to eat. So fun foods and stuff. And there's restaurants and little, the either a sit down restaurant or a quick service thing, or just little food stands. You can grab snacks and everything. But one of the ones I think is the most fun is the Minion Cafe, especially the Minion tater tots. The tater tots are
Mm.
shaped like minions. So that just adds just a little element to it that I know that my little girl was eating Swedish fish the other day and was ripping them apart and biting the head off it, or same thing with like a gummy bear type thing, that anything shaped like a figure, dinosaur shaped chicken nuggets,
Hmm.
little things that can add an element to their play and can hopefully lead them to eating it a little bit more too.
Absolutely. And actually with the new DreamWorks Land, I can't remember what the name of the little restaurant is. Well, it's not a restaurant, it's like a convenience stand where you go up and just grab stuff from a window and sit somewhere else in the park. But they actually have a Shrek shaped pretzel.
Oh,
It's like
nice.
shaped like its head. And they also have a thing, I think they said it's called a Shreksicle. It's actually a like neon green sour green apple popsicle. It's supposed to actually be really good. Just of course with the Florida heat, it melts pretty quick. So uh, during the summer months, you're not going to want to sit around with it. You're going to have a puddle of the the
A puddle of
popsicle
Shrek.
in the container. Yeah, puddle of Shrek. Yeah,
Oh, but that sounds good. Sour apple. That's
yeah, that's definitely one that I'm going to be grabbing at least one of when we're down there.
I'm a big Granny Smith fan, so that's definitely up my alley. Heading over to Islands of Adventure, Seuss Landing is geared towards kids, but even with that, the rides they have there, they're still interesting enough that an adult would want to ride them. And now, of
Hmm.
course, there's the Carousel, which is their carousel. That anyone can ride that. There's the one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, which it's a Dumbo ride. You get in the little fish and you go around in a circle and it goes up in the air. They have the If I Ran a Zoo play area, which is wonderful when your kids are tired of standing in line and just need to run off energy, which
Yes,
I know mine is my little girl is super active, that she's the Energizer Bunny, that she just does not stop, unless I've always joked that she's like Newton's laws of motion personified, that the object in motion stays in motion. No way to stop her is like put her in the car seat for like a long ride and then she'll sometimes fall asleep. So whenever she's restrained, you can't move. But otherwise, she's on the go and she is always on the go. And plus, especially whenever you've been in the park for a while and you're waiting in line and they always start climbing on the chains and the little
yes,
guardrails in between. And it's okay, get off that, get off that. Okay, here's something you can go and climb on. So get that
right.
climbing out of your system. And there's
Yeah,
other areas in the park too that you can do that too.
there is. Yeah, that's definitely a good indicator of like, okay, we need a break from the lines, like when they start hanging on the chains and climbing over stuff that they really shouldn't be on. That's usually a good idea to like, okay, let's get some water, let's get them over and let them run a little energy off.
Yeah, and I've used the ploy of whenever we're in line, you get to one of the workers there, and it's like you don't listen to me. You're not listening to me. Here, we'll ask the worker here. See, he's in charge. He's the boss. Like, are they allowed to come? And they're like, no. See, he told you no. So it's,
Right?
it's transfer of authority. It's not just coming from me that normally don't listen to me. Here's this person who hopefully you're looking up to as, oh my God, they work here in this amazing fun place. I better listen to what they're doing.
Right. It takes a way a little bit of being the bad guy on the fun trip type thing too.
Exactly. It's not my role. It's the park's roles. Two other rides that they have in Seuss Landing are the Cat and Hat and the High in the Sky Seuss Trolley Train Ride, which I don't know if you make a longer. How big is that sign that they have to put all that on? But those
Right.
both have 36-inch height restrictions. Cat in the Hat is like a dark ride that you sit in a little thing, you go around. It's like going through the Cat in the Hat story. And if you ever read the Cat in the Hat, you're going to get into trouble or see them get into trouble going through it, making a mess. So it's fun for the kids to see that. The High in the Sky Seuss Trolley Train, it doesn't go that fast. Again, it's kind of like the
Mhm.
mini roller coaster thing. There are a few little dips and uh, turns and stuff like that. But the really neat thing is the different perspective you get of the park, that you are up above it. So it's elevated. So you
Yeah.
get to see a really, really good view of one, the area around you just looking down, but two, you can see off into the distance for some of the other attractions, which is really neat. So jumping across the park a little bit into Jurassic Park, they have Camp Jurassic, which is the other playground area. This one's dinosaur themed, so all kinds of bones and slides and things kids can climb through and climb over and climb under. So again, just an area for let them to go in and just run around and be at your playground like you are at home, which is another nice thing. The kids get that little whenever they're overstimulated, whatever. That this is more of a here's what I'm used to at home of playing on this playground and doing these slides. This is what I'm familiar. It gives them that little bit of a comfort and familiarity. They also have the Jurassic Park Discovery Center, which has a lot of hands-on activities. and you can like see fossils and watch some of the velociraptor eggs hatch and test your DNA thing. And I feel like little fun things. If this is a little bit more for an older, grade school, third, fourth, fifth grade-ish type thing. So they have stuff that even, the little bit of an older kid who's still a kid who might be tired of standing in line, that gives them a place to get out of just waiting around, and you get into some air conditioning too, which is nice.
Yeah.
So next, the pterodon flyers, however, I can't pronounce that today. That they are specifically designed for kids between the ages of 36 inches and 54 inches, but they can bring a taller friend. It's kind of, I don't know, a cross between a paddle boat and a zip line.
Yeah.
You're kind of up in the air, and I think you pedal through those. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
So, but it's elevated. It's maybe 10, 15, 20 feet above the ground. That you're in these little seats. It's like a recumbent bicycle that you're sitting down and pedaling in front of you, and it has little wings above it, like you're a pterodactyl or a pterodon flying around above you. And the one time that my wife and I were there before we had kids, that we saw them, we were like, "Can we go on that? That looks like a lot of fun." So we were kind of disappointed. So now we're excited to take our little girl that we can actually go on them now.
Right.
So that's the one thing that is designed specifically for kids, that only one adult can go with them. So you have to take turns and force your kid to go on it twice, whether they like it or not. Just so
Right.
But Daddy, I don't like that ride. No, you had fun last time. Remember, you liked it with Mom. You like it better with me. The Jurassic Park River Adventure has a 42-inch height requirement, and that's more of an intense ride. And anyone under, and you're gonna get this for several of the rides now, is that under 48 inches needs an adult. So even though they can ride it, with a they're a little bit not quite as tall to go by themselves, you can still go on it. So although I don't think you're gonna send your kid on the Jurassic Park River Adventure by themselves. So
Right.
that can get scary. There is a big drop at the end. Spoiler alert. And you will get wet on that ride too. So plan accordingly. That's another thing. Make sure the kid knows when there's a good chance of them getting wet.
Yeah.
And make sure most kids don't have a problem with it, but there's sometimes when the kid's not expecting it, and then they get soaked, and it's, my favorite shoes are wet. And don't worry, you're in Florida. It's summer. You're dry in 5 minutes.
Right.
So there is a fairly scary scene there, though, with the T-Rex and a few of the other dinosaurs that you get kind of up close and personal with them. So make sure the kid is prepared for some scary scenes potentially. Now, over in the Toon Lagoon, there is another play area. It's Me Ship the Olive, and you can say that in Popeye's voice. So I don't know, Justin, if you can do a good Popeye impersonation.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, my impersonations are limited. So, but again, so you have just anyone who is unfamiliar with the layout of Islands of Adventure, it is set up really nicely for the kids to have fun. That whenever you enter, if you would go, there's a big lake in the middle, and you're walking around kind of in a circle around this lake to the different islands, the different little areas. And if you go towards the left, like the second island in is Toon Lagoon. So you're not too far before they can have a play area. You go a little bit further along. We're going clockwise around it. That you'll hit then through where King Kong is into Jurassic Park, so another play area. Then keep going. You'll pass Harry Potter and Hogsmeade. Then you get to like the Lost Continent, and then you get to Seuss Landing, which is then roughly back to where the beginning is. So roughly every 2 islands, you're going to hit a place that's going to have a play area for the kids. So no matter where you are in the park, there's not going to be a play. You're not too far from a play area, which is really nice.
It is.
Whenever that meltdown starts to come, or the antsiness begins, you don't have to walk too far, especially because then they start complaining, my legs are tired, carry me. And then they run around completely at the face. Your legs aren't too tired. Another ride you can do that has no height limit is the Storm Force Acceleratron, which it's like the teacups thing. It's a spinny ride, and that's in the Marvel Superheroes area. Also in that area with 40-inch height requirement is the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which again, it's a simulator type ride. It's not too intense from what I remember.
Yeah, it's not too bad. There's a few moments that could be a tiny bit scary, but I think in comparison to some of the others, it's sort of mild.
Yeah, in Toon Lagoon, there's Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat barges. It has a 42-inch height requirement, and you get this big round, I would say inner tube type things. I'm not sure how to best describe the vehicles that you have to go in. I know at least for Justin and I are from Western Pennsylvania, it's the Raging Rapids. So
Right.
that's why how I always describe it to people who are from around here that you will get soaked on that ride. So
Hmm.
be prepared. Although again, on a hot day, that's exactly what the kids want. And the neat thing is that there's also the Dudley Do Right um, Ripsaw Falls, which I believe has a higher
Hmm.
height limit for that. It's like a log flume. And outside of those, they're in the same general area, is that they have the people dryers. You can go in like this big thing, they blow air on you to help dry you off a little bit. So that's just a neat thing for the kids even to watch or to go into to
Right.
get blown dry afterwards. Um, the Skull Island Reign of Kong only has a 36-inch height requirement. It's a ride through thing. You're like in a big truck, and there's some 3D things, some elements, and some audio animatronics. It's not that rough of a ride, but you get pretty up close and personal with King Kong and some dinosaurs and some other things, giant spiders. So, on a scary factor, it might not be appropriate for everybody. Although with my little girl, we watch Star Wars and it's like I like Darth Vader, and she's all keep asking about Darth Maul and Kylo Ren. So I think she might. I think she might not be too bad with seeing King Kong, especially because
That's
he's a
good.
big monkey. It's like it's a monkey. Can I hug him?
Right.
Over in Diagon Alley, or excuse me, in Hogsmeade, is the Flight of the Hippogriff, which is a smaller roller coaster. So it's a step up from at least from what I've seen with the roller coaster that's in DreamWorks Land, and it has some decent hills, but it does not go too fast, and it doesn't have any giant hills. So it's a nice introductory roller coaster as the kids are getting into it, and especially as you're walking past the Velocicoaster and the Incredible Hulk coaster and some of the other bigger ones. If the kids start saying, "Can I try that one?" Here's one they can go on that is not too intense.
Yeah, I think it would be very similar to Goofy's roller coaster in Magic Kingdom, maybe a little bit bigger
Yeah, although
than that.
The Goofy one has some quick turns in there, so that can be a
It
bumpy ride.
does.
The Flight of the Hippogriff is is a lot smoother though, so that's
Hmm.
nice. And the theming of both Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade is just incredible. That they really did a great job of immersion, and you really think that you are in Harry Potter. That again, even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, just going in there is really amazing. And also in that area is the Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. Although, sorry, that's in Diagon Alley. Over in Universal Studios, Florida, there's a 42-inch height requirement for that. It's a 3D simulator. It can get a little bit intense. Um, and the bankers, as you're going through the queue and everything, can be kind of scary. And there's a
Yeah.
dragon that sits on top that breathes fire. So just have your kid be aware as you're walking through that this is going, something could happen, or something to be aware of, just so they're not caught
Right.
off guard. And just so you are aware, so you're not caught off
That
guard,
too. Yeah, you don't need to scare them because you got scared.
you're jumping. Yeah. Jumping to some of the shows, there's the Tri-Wizard Spirit Rally and the Frog Choir. They're both in Hogsmeade. The Spirit Rally, it's acrobatics and martial arts and
Mhm.
people are dancing with the ribbons like you have in rhythmic gymnastics in the Olympics.
Mhm.
And so again, if your kid is into that martial arts type stuff, it's the athleticism and the grace and the beauty of that. It's an amazing show just to see them to be able to. And they're doing these acrobats with staffs and other things too. So they have like a prop and like well, if you want to call it a weapon, whatever. That they're no actual combat involved, but it
Right.
they do some incredible things with that. And then the frog choir. Oh, it's funny that these little hand puppet frogs that are
Mhm.
singing. I know that's especially popular around Christmas. They
Yeah,
uh they bring
definitely.
that out. And then something else for the kids to do that's in Seuss Landing is the stories you'll hear. It's story time. It's a unique way of telling the stories that they're familiar with from the Dr. Seuss books, and they get to see the characters up on stage and interact and everything. So, um, again, it's that nice getting to see characters without necessarily getting too close to them and getting a break, hearing something they're familiar with, and getting off your feet, sitting down, or dancing around and jumping around with them if you'd like, depending on what the kid needs. So, speaking of getting the characters, that in Seuss Landing, Sam I Am, Cat in the Hat, Thing One, Thing Two, and The Grinch, which is especially popular around Christmas, of getting to meet them. Although The Grinch can be scary for some kids.
Hmm.
And they get to meet some superheroes and villains. Spider-Man, Captain America, Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Rogue, and then Doctor Doom and the Green Goblin. So again, be careful with some of the villains if your kids are scared of them. There's the comic book characters, Popeye, Olive Oil, and Betty Boop in Toon Lagoon. And one you might want to not go to is in Jurassic Park, the Raptor encounter where you get to meet Blue.
Hmm.
That I've seen adults who, get the might need to change underwear after that bit. So having the kids with the dinosaur jumping out at them uh, might not be the best idea. Although the one encounter that I think is amazing, and it goes along the lines of what we're saying with meeting Donkey and the stuff they do with Poe in DreamWorks Land, is the Mystic Fountain in the Lost Continent. That be careful that he will spit water at you. So if you get too close, well, one, if the kid is hot and wants to play in the water, go stand there because they will get wet and it can not going to get soaked, well, depending on how long they stand there. They don't want necessarily get soaked, but they get a little bit wet and getting squirted and stuff. And just the comments from this guy, as Justin was saying before with Donkey, whoever does that, they're just as good with Mystic Fountain. That it's amazing. It's just hilarious and not always politically correct. So be careful. And just like in Universal Studios Hollywood or Universal Studios Florida, don't want to jump coast on us. We said about the tater tots at the mini cafe, green eggs and
Mm.
ham. They have
Mm.
a bunch of different tater tots there. Again, kids looking for a little bit of a snack, things they're familiar with, small things that they can, eat individually, finger food type thing. That's the place to go. They have a bunch of different varieties of tater tots there. And as an adult, if you want to have some, it gives you the excuse, oh yeah, the kids want them. And
Right.
so it's something they'll eat. Don't worry. And then you get to clean up the rest what they don't eat. Or if they do eat all of it, you just order another round. Over in Volcano Bay, there's a lot for the kids to do, and there are specific areas designed for the kids. So especially if you're down there in the summer, you have a hot day, that I would definitely recommend building in either a pool day at your resort, especially if you're staying in one of the Universal resorts, one of their hotels, or go to Volcano Bay. That the Runamukka Reef is specifically designed for kids who are under 54 inches tall. So they won't do a height check for you necessarily, but the things like they have geysers and dump cuts and water guns that will squirt at you and slides, and anyone under 48 inches does need a life vest or life jacket, but it's made for kids along in that area, with that age range or that height range. And then they have the Tiki Reef, which is for kids who are under 48 inches. So again, slides, a water volcano, spraying tikis, singing whales. So fun stuff for little kids just go and splash around. get cooled off, and the water's not too deep, so you don't have to worry too much about them. Although, again, please watch your kids when they're around water at any time.
Mm-hmm.
The Copico Y Winding River, it's a lazy river. So I remember even when I was a kid going on that thing, it just looked neat. Oh, look at everyone those sit in the inner tube and just float around. And although often when we do that for a little bit, like, all right, this is boring, then we start swimming around with people and trying to go under their legs and everything. So we were kind of annoying, I bet. But it is a nice lazy river. There's
Mm-hmm.
the Kuka Oli Lagoon. They have bongo drums, and spraying water that shoots up. Again, for most of these places, under 48 inches will need a life jacket. There's also the at Watori Beach that had the sand beach, and then it's a wave pool. It sits right over there, Krakatoa volcano. So it's like being at the beach. Beware that they will sound a whistle and the waves start. So they're not giant waves, from wave pool, but some of them can be big enough to knock a little kid over if they're near the shore or anything. So just be aware of that whenever they're going to come. And I know we took our little girl to wave pool, and she liked just being out in the water, bobbing up and down with us. Um, so that can be a nice thing for them. Again, it's nice interaction time with you and them, get them used to the water type of thing. And then there's the reef, which has waterfalls and squirting tiki. So there's several little areas that throughout the park the kids can go and just splash around. And if they're 42 inches tall, that opens up a whole world of the water slides to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of them there. None of these are super huge and intense, like the body plunge ones that those get really fast. These are some of them are tube ones where you can kind of race down with two people on a tube. Some are bigger family tube ones. Some of them are body slides. You get to race down. Um, there's another not so lazy river that kind of like rapids that you go through and get squirted with water. So it's like a step up on the lazy river of activity. Now over in Universal City Walk, again, they have a ton of restaurants there. There's miniature golf they have, so that's always a fun activity, especially one who's more East Coast. As I found out, that's more of an East Coast thing, not so much a West Coast thing with the miniature golf.
Mm-hmm.
That we always have a good time doing that.
Yeah,
That was a staple of vacations when I was growing up. That
same
no matter
here.
where we went, to the beach, Niagara Falls, just on a Sunday afternoon, that my dad that was my dad's thing. He would take us miniature golfing, and then we would get ice cream. Partly to give my mom a break, and partly because my dad wanted ice cream. So, and if my mom wasn't there, she couldn't tell him no. So
Right. Everyone was happy.
exactly. Although the one place that of all the places in Universal City Walk to eat, the Twosome Chocolate Emporium and Savory Feast
Um,
Kitchen, that the milkshakes there are legendary. That is a nice milkshake, but it's gonna be topped by like an entire cookie or a big slice of cake or whatever. That this is you're gonna if you go there, come hungry, and just a milkshake itself is enough to fill you up, or even to split among a few people. And just the atmosphere of that, of it's like a
yeah.
steampunk thing. And like the owner Penelope and her robot Jock, that they're amazing characters. They'll come by and greet you, and you can interact with them. But the one thing that's often overlooked there is they have some really good food too. And so the Savory Feast Kitchen thing is that if you actually want to eat a meal there, that you can get some really good food. So it's not just you know sugar overload and
Right.
for the kids.
Yeah, just hard to turn down the desserts when they look the way they do, and how big they are, uh to go with the other food. Sort of that point in time where you're like, calories don't count on vacation.
Exactly. But also there, the going to Tucson is a good thing that you can like eat there all day. That you go for your lunch
Mhm.
there and you will fill up with some good food, and then you come back like 2 hours later and you get your milkshake, and
There you
then
go.
they even have some adult beverages there that you can
Mm,
sample later on too. So options for the whole day. Just don't bring the kids for the adult beverages.
definitely.
Okay. Now, if you go to one of the, Universal, I highly recommend staying at one of the Universal hotels that's right on
Definitely.
property. That especially when you are with kids, and as just that if they get tired during the day and you need that pool break, or it's nap time and they need to just go sit in some um, air conditioning, or they need to be in the pool, whatever. Being that close that you're either a short walk away or a little boat ride, even if they have sore feet and they're tired, whatever, or if they need to sit down and fall asleep on you on the boat ride, that you're that close, so you can easily go back to your hotel room, take a little breather, and then come back refreshed when you get your second wind back to the parks a little bit later on without too much of an inconvenience. You don't have to worry about getting in your car and driving away, or getting an Uber, or getting the bus or the tram, the shuttle, whatever it is, to wherever you're staying. It's very nice and convenient that you're all in that same complex. And some of the hotels there are a lot of fun. The Cabana Bay Beach Resort, they have a lazy river.
Hmm.
And then the pools at the Endless Summer, both Surfside and Dockside, the pools for the Surfside is shaped like a surfboard. So just the theming of those, and those are some of the least expensive ones too. So
Yes.
but you're not getting in the, you're sacrificing paying more money for getting a whole lot more theme. It's a lot more fun for the kids, and it's not going to break the bank. There's some of the ones that are a little bit more the more expensive and more elaborate hotels that have, again, wonderful themes to them, but it's not something that the kids going to necessarily want to go to. That they like the Cabana Bay Beach, and which is themed to like the 1950s, so it's kind of outlandish and a little bit Garrett, over the top stuff with the pop culture from the 50s. So it's bright colors, things that kids are going to enjoy a lot more. And it's just a fun atmosphere to be in, with like they have their game rooms, and some of the places to eat are themed more towards like the 1950s diner and things along those lines. And with Cabana Bay in the Endless Summer, you are closer to Volcano Bay.
Hmm.
So if you do want to have a day that you spent at the water park, you have a very close, very short commute to it. And Aventura, you have your own pathway that you can walk right to Volcano Bay, and the views of Volcano Bay whenever you were in those hotels, especially the higher levels, they're just stunning.
And with those two, like my kids are big on being in the water. Um, Being in a location like that, especially if you go mid trip or something, I know my kids almost every day are like, "Hey, can we swim in the pool for like an hour or two?"
Hmm.
And so being able to, one, have those really nice pools there, and two, being close to the water park, that maybe it's not just the same thing for the adults, uh, is definitely a nice benefit of grabbing one of the endless summer locations or Cabana Bay.
Now, if you do stay like at the Royal Pacific Resort, they do have the Wonton Luau, which, depending on how your kids react to that, and seeing the fire dancers and the hula dancers and everything, it's pretty neat. And it can be, especially if they're into dance and that type of thing, it's a nice little break for them. The Hard Rock Hotel, you can live like a rock star. The the decorations in the hotel and your rooms are pretty amazing, and you can rent guitars. Well, the
Yeah,
other part, it's not really renting; it's included in there. And if you stay at these, what are they? What's the wording they use for it? It's uh, I'm thinking moderate and deluxe. It's premier. That's it. The premier
yes,
hotel. That the Universal Express Unlimited is included in your stay. So while you're paying a little bit more for the room, getting that added perk is really nice.
it
Plus, when you
is.
stay at the more expensive, the premier hotels, you can always go down a level and use the swimming facilities at the other resorts. So if you're staying at the Hard Rock and you would like to use the lazy river at the Cabana Bay Beach Resort, you are welcome to do that. You can, now, if you're staying at Endless Summer, you cannot go up. Um,
Right.
so be aware of that. But you can always go down a level and use those swimming facilities, although the other ones have amazing pools too.
Yeah. And sort of stepping back to the rent a guitar, that I was looking at it, and the list is pretty crazy. It's all Fender guitars. So, and there's Stratocasters, Telecasters, and then their bass guitars. So you have 20 guitars to choose from that you can go through and try them on different days or whatever and turn them back in. And so if anyone's big into music and just can't afford the price tag of grabbing a Fender, or like, well, I can play guitar at home, like you're getting to try something sort of special with the rent a guitar option.
And especially if our kids are getting into music and that's something that interests them and starting to play an instrument and things along those lines. That I remember when I was little, it was Back to the Future that got me into the guitar
Mm-hmm.
of seeing Marty McFly with that huge amp put himself across the room. Always wanted to try that. My parents, for some reason, said no. So I had to stick with acoustics.
Mm.
But that pretty much goes through the Universal Orlando and some of the things that you can expect to find for the kids, things that they'll probably like, things that you might want to be a little bit more leery of. There's a whole lot more to it. So if you are interested in a trip there, contact Justin or I or anyone else at Dreams by Design Travel, and we can give you a bunch more details of what to expect on these rides. We went through it fairly quickly here and to help tailor your trip. And that's one of the things that we will offer for you is that with some of the companies that you get with going on tours or whatever else that you book online is they have their standard, here's my preset itinerary of what you should do. We don't do that. Every trip is different, especially if you're going to one of the amusement parks of Universal or Disney or whatever. That a trip that I would do is not necessarily the same trip that Justin would do, just because our kids are different ages. And even if we have kids who are the same age, that our kids have different interests. And my little girl loved going on roller coasters, and someone else's little kids is a little bit more leery of roller coasters. So okay, we can give you advice of this ride is probably good for you. This ride is probably not good for you. Oh, your kid loves Shrek. All right, definitely go there. Okay, your kid is still in the whole Dr. Seuss phase and they love that. All right, here's where you need to go so that we can work with you and give you advice of here is where you are most likely to get the most bang for your buck and get the most enjoyment out of your trip. So we can work with you personally of here's what you're interested in and other things. Even if you don't have kids and you're just going, okay, are you a big roller coaster fan? Definitely make sure you hit these first. All right. And whatever else it is that we can make the most of your trip, especially for the restaurants.
Yep.
Oh, that's basically, oh, we want to eat somewhere. Okay. What type of food do you like? Are you looking for a specific atmosphere? Are you looking for more a fun thing? You're looking for more a quiet dinner? And then we can work all around that to make sure that we get the place for you that's going to be the best for you. So, Justin, do you have any final thoughts you wanted to add before we move on to travel tips?
I don't think so. I think that a lot of people hesitate with going with kids. I really haven't ever with it. I've always done it and I don't regret it one bit. We've always have something special that we remember from each trip that's maybe a little different. And so for me, it's definitely take the trip. It's worth it in the end.
So, all right. Was that your full travel tip or do you want to expand? Did you have one?
Oh, I'm sorry. So on the travel tip side, my travel tip is take advantage of your local amusement park options for you. Like for Matt, he's got Kennywood and Idlewild, and also for me, I'm also sort of close to Del Grosso Park. Taking advantage of spending a significantly less price to go through one of those locations. If your kids have never been to the parks before, take them there first. Get them to understand, hey, if I wait in this line, I'm going to get to do something fun at the end. Like you mentioned a few times about character reaction. Like in Idlewild, we've got Daniel Tiger and Katarina and Kitty Cat and those characters. If your kid's going to run away scared, maybe this trip isn't the trip to do a whole lot of character meet and greets. And getting to know when they're going to crash during the day. If like my kids, I've found out rather quick with actually both of them. They like an afternoon nap, but don't take them back to the hotel. They my daughter in particular would not sleep if we took her back to the hotel. Instead, as if we took time to go into a handful of quieter shops and things like that, be in the air conditioning, she'd pass out. We could grab a snack or a drink and maybe do a little shopping ourselves for things that we were wanting to take home. And she'd be out for an hour or so, and then we'd be up and good to go, versus going back to the hotel. We'd end up fighting with her for 2.5, 3 hours trying to get her to lay down, and she wouldn't do it. And then she'd still be tired going back into the parks because she never got the nap.
And yeah, bring your stroller too.
Yes.
Definitely have your stroller. Do not rely on renting one at the parks because they're kind of hard plastic and they're not the most comfortable. Plus, having your familiar one that you can then take out of the park with you, so you don't have to stop there and then carry all your stuff. And the strollers are wonderful for carrying your extra waters and snacks and whatever else in them. And get your little umbrella stroller that you can fold up and take with you. That has worked great for us on our trips. And the other nice thing is whenever the kid takes the nap, if you are in the parks, is my wife and I have used this, that we'll then go on, we'll do the rider swap, or we'll then go on a bigger ride that we are looking forward to, that our little girl could not go on. And so we take the turns there while she's taking the nap, that, we're just sitting there or doing whatever. But yeah, the shopping is another good one that we've done as well. But yeah, that or the rides to take care of it. And if there's no local amusement park that's real close to you, county fairs, church festival, anything that you have that will get them to experience kind of the sights and sounds and the atmosphere and the protocol of waiting in lines to get on this ride and seeing all that and the noise and the lights and everything, people screaming, things like that. Anything to kind of sensitize them to it is always good. I have a couple of tips. My first one is to do kind of what Justin said, but it's to prepare the kid for the trip. And it's to, before you go on, get on the airplane, explain to them what's going to happen. Okay, we're going to go on an airplane and we're going to do this, and we're going to have to do this thing. We're going to stay in a hotel, and then we're going to go see this. And it sometimes can help to either watch videos of someone going on a plane, or if you can show them some videos of the park that you're going to go to so they can see it, or even doing like some play practicing of it, the modeling of it, of you set up your chairs in a row. All right, everyone, we're going on our plane. All right, so daddy's the ticket taker, hand him your ticket. All right, let's go sit down. All right, here comes mommy with the orange juice. Would you like some orange juice for your snack? Here's some peanuts, or just so that they know here's what it's going to be like. So whenever it happens for real, it's not, this is weird, what's happening, I don't like this. It's okay, I've been there, I've done that. This is just like we were playing with. Okay. The other thing is that on travel day, make sure that they have a favorite toy to carry, something smallish like a stuffed animal, thing that doesn't have too many parts, so it's not going to lose things. Although don't make it the favorite toy, because if it gets lost or something happens to it, you don't want that complete meltdown. But something they're familiar with, just so they have that familiarity, especially the soft toy, something they can hug, they can hold tightly, whenever they might get a little bit scared or shy or unsure of what's going on. And be lenient on the normal rules. As Justin said, vacation calories don't count. For kids, they're not worried about the calories, but okay, here, I have all your favorite snacks in here. Okay, you want to have an extra little bag of goldfish? All right, here you go. You want a little piece of chocolate? Okay, here you go. They're not to just keep, feeding them every time they ask, but being more lenient with whenever they're going is always nice. And again, something Justin said about knowing your kids, that we took a trip to Niagara Falls with our little girl, and we were walking around one time, and then she just completely changed and was a complete bear, just yelling at stuff, throwing things around, whatever. And we finally realized, oh, we haven't eaten in a while. She's hungry. That she
Hmm.
was at an age that she could not verbalize or understand, hey, I want food, and to tell us, give me food. It was just something's wrong and just went crazy. So from there on, we knew to make sure the snacks are handy and to keep track of the time to make sure she didn't get to that. So
Yeah, the hangry, dehydrated thing is a rough thing in any of the Florida parks. We definitely keep snacks with us all the time just so that people can grab something when it usually if you see a change in someone's demeanor a lot of times when we're in the parks, it's usually because oh, we haven't had a drink in a couple hours or something like that that we just lost track of time because you get sucked into the show you were just in or whatever and you don't realize how much time has really passed.
on that note, bathroom breaks.
Hmm.
Every so often when you're going by, hey, let's go see if you have to go potty. Now ours, she emphatically does not like to use the bathroom. And it's like, come on, it's been, it's noon. You last went to the bathroom at like 7 o'clock this morning, okay, when we got you out. Go. So it kind of has to force her to go every once in a while, but knowing where the closest bathroom is, playing those breaks just so it's not in the middle of a line, which happened to us once that we were waiting in line for Cosmic Rewind. And we had waited in line and we got up to just like when you entered like the extra queue thing wherever the pre-show starts and everything. And she was like, Daddy, I gotta use the bathroom. I gotta poop. Like, so we had just gotten there. So we at least got to go out of the fast pass line down and we told them at the entrance, hey, bathroom run. Went there, got to come back up. I felt kind of bad that it was like, excuse me, pardon me, just cutting through everybody. But it kind of helped that she kind of took off running in front of us because my wife stayed up there. And so everyone saw this little kid running through them. And then they saw me coming after, like trying to catch her. So it was like, I saw looks like, oh, she's with you. Okay. And then it wasn't sort of, excuse me, I'm catching up. It's I'm catching my little girl. And when we finally got, I caught her at the very front, and the cast members remembered us. So I was like, okay, we can just go in. We're coming through. Sorry, but I also want to go back on something that Justin said before of not being afraid to take your kids. There's no such thing as being too young to take them. That I understand the thing of I want if we're going to take them, I want them to remember it. But as a few of our the Dreams by Design travel advisors have posted on social media, that there's no such thing as that, and that the kid might not remember the trip specifically, but you will.
Hmm.
You as a parent, it's their childhood. This is your parenthood. And so we had one who um it was Amanda, her daughter who's 6 months old, maybe. I think it's a
Hmm.
daughter, little kid, 6 months old, that they were in one of the Disney parks, and the little kid had an encounter with Goofy, and oh my god, I was gonna cry watching this. That the little kid just burst out laughing the entire time, giggling at Goofy, and Goofy's reaction to this of Goofy like kind of put his hand like on his chest and like covered his mouth like Goofy was about to burst into tears too with this. That it was just such a sweet moment. And also having the kids get the experience that young can help to desensitize them to seeing the characters later on. So it's not such a big shock of, oh my gosh, it's Mickey Mouse, or oh my gosh, it's Shrek, or it's oh, I remember seeing them before.
Hmm.
And so it's a familiarity thing of that they've been to this and this becomes more of a normal routine. So it's not quite so bad as that or such a shock as that first time is when they go. And even those visits, it becomes a family tradition that it can, even though they're too young to remember it, it can still impact them. Just like your kids are not going to remember you reading them stories when they're 1 year old, but doesn't mean you shouldn't read them stories.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
just because they're not going to remember it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't do it.
Well,
Another, go ahead.
sometimes with that, like people go, "Oh, well, they're not going to remember until they're 4 or till they're 5 or whatever." There's points and times where I know like something occurred on a particular trip, and my son was 2 or 3, and we didn't have photo or video of this particular scenario, but we happen to be back in the park at a particular area or something. And he goes, "You remember when we did this?" I'm like, "But you were not even 3 at that point. Like, how do you remember that?" And it wasn't something like, "Oh, this is a really cute story. Let's tell him about it at some point." It was just something random. And so they do retain some of that stuff sooner than people think sometimes. I was definitely surprised, and my kids are 6 and 9 now, and there's been several times I've had from both of them where they've mentioned things that I was like, how do you have that as a memory at this point?
Well, my earliest memory is being down in Florida at both Disney and Busch Gardens. That
Mm.
it was a few months before I turned 3 that we took a trip down there, and that is the earliest thing that I remember. So, yeah, don't have to be that old for it to have an impact on you. And then, well, I guess going to the parks, as a young kid, look what I do for a living now. So it did definitely have an impact. Another common complaint is that if I don't want to take my kids because I know they're gonna have a meltdown. Well, look at your everyday life. How often do they have a meltdown at home? If they're gonna have a meltdown, why not be in Disney? This is a normal course of the day. That the other I know I've walked past another parents with a kid who's not having a good time. And when it's your kid, it's a bigger deal. I know that
Right.
we're in a play, we're somewhere and needing my little girl to be quiet, and she's making noise. Like, no, no, please. Shh, shh, shh. And it seems a lot more worse than whenever I'm in somewhere else similar and I see another little kid who's making noise and running around or
Right.
doing whatever. And it's not as big of a deal as you think it is.
Yeah. Always
And
feels worse when it's you having to try to sell them down, but you don't think anything of the kid that you saw 15 minutes ago at a different ride. It always seems worse when it's you having to try to figure it out.
And when you're in the parks, the people who work there are really good with, they're used to that.
Mhm.
They often they'll carry little stickers of, oh, your little kids crying. Would you like a stick? And do something nice for them that they can help
Mhm.
alleviate that tantrum. Or, even whenever we're there and I see someone else whose kid's not too happy, and you give the parent the knowing nod of, I've been there, done that. I feel for you. But if we're in line, you know, especially with my little girl who's super social, she'll go up to them like, "Are you okay?" And why is he crying? And then having that interaction with the little kid can help to
Mhm.
alleviate it. So it's not as bad as it seems. And so don't let that be the reason you don't go on one of these trips of, oh, they're not going to know your kid, how they handle it. You have the meltdown, then, give them the Shrek pretzel, and then they're happy.
Right.
So, Justin, again, thank you very much. It's always good to have you on the podcast. So, for everyone else out there, if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. Justin, how can people get a hold of you?
Easiest way to get a hold of me on social media is actually through my Linktree. It's at linktr.ee / with Justin, run together like it's one word.
For
And
me,
my email is Justin at Dreams by Design Travel.
and for me, my social media, I'm at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. My email is matt at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. Website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com. All of this information is in the show description for this episode. So you don't have to write it down or try to memorize it. You can just look us up there. So if you have any, like to book a trip, or if you have any questions for us, by all means, feel free to get a hold of us. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. Again, Justin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much for
having me.
joining me today. And for everyone else, join us next time. We're heading out in that. We'll see you later.